Hello and welcome to a quick video explaining how to use the player profile section on Index Edge. So first of all, you can look at any player on Football Index, and there's so much data really to go through on the player profile section. But we'll stick with Jadon Sancho for now, and then we'll change the date range. We'll go for the start of 2021, and all of the data that will come up will be from 2021 onwards now. So we'll scroll down and you can see price section. You have the latest buy price, latest sell price, latest average offer price, and the latest spread. And then these infographics can be quite useful because what you can see is the latest price, the average price in your selected date range, and then the peak price. So he's quite a fair bit off his peak price now that he hit very recently, £8.98. And we'll have a look at the price graph. You can see his price sort of was pretty steady, and then it dropped down to £4.28, and you can see he sort of bottomed out here because his price stopped moving for a couple of days, and then it was at that point that his price started to grow again, and then it really rose up quite quickly all the way up to £8.98 when he earned Star Man Matchday Dividends on a gold day, earned 28p, and then it sort of dropped again since. And talking about matchday scores and Sancho earning dividends, we can have a look at his matchday scores here. So 7 scores within the date range so far. 42.9% of those have been 210 plus, and we get a real breakdown here in the matchday scores versus dates section. So what you can do is you can just hover over all of these scores, and it'll give you a bit of a breakdown. So it'll tell you how many goals, assists, the matchday score, formation that the team played in. Dortmund usually go for a 4-2-3-1, and the opposition as well. And then the ones in green, that's when the player has earned matchday dividends. The ones in red, when the player has not earned dividends. But that can be really useful. And the other thing that you can do, which I quite like to do, is actually change the chart type. And there's so many options to choose from, but we'll go for vertical stacked bar. And this will kind of just give us a clearer understanding of how Sancho has hit a couple of scores over 200 so far this year, and he's actually earned dividends twice, and this was only a 169, which wasn't the best score, but because it was a bronze match day, there wasn't many teams playing. Getting 2 assists and hitting that 169 was enough to actually earn dividends on the 22nd of January. And this can be even more interesting if we have a look at more data. So if we get a player like Joshua Kimmich, who hits loads of scores over 200, you'll see that he's earned some huge dividend returns already in 2021, but if we reset the date, we'll see loads of matchday scores. And I think this is quite a nice visualization of like Joshua Kimmich's matchday scores. You can see in August he did particularly well due to his appearances in the Champions League, and then he's just gone from strength to strength. And actually his peak scores have improved quite a bit recently as well, because he hit a 279 at the start of January and also a 367 with 3 assists against Schalke only the other week. So plenty of dividend returns for Joshua Kimmich. And then what I really like about the player profiles is this competition adjusted. And competition adjusted is always the removal of the 1.25 multiplier, which is applied for European games. Competition adjusted matchday score distribution graph. So you can see that 210 to 240. So pretty decent scores. Kimmich hits 29.5% of his scores within that bracket, and then he's also hitting a fair few scores over 240 as well. And you can see that Kimmich's matchday scores have improved again in another way. So if, for example, we go for the start of last season, and you can just go along this sort of slider here on the date filter, and we'll go from August up until, I think we'll go for like May 2020, for example. But we'll go for March 2020. We'll see that his matchday scores were good, don't get me wrong, pretty impressive, but scores have improved quite a bit. So you're looking at around, I think it's around 25.8% of his scores over 210. But then if we just change this to since May 2020, we'll see that his scores have actually improved a huge amount, which is quite impressive. Or we'll go for March again. I can't remember what day exactly. And yeah, we'll change this to today, and we'll see it's gone from 25.8% of scores over 210. And if you added those up, that'd be 50%. So massive improvement in Joshua Kimmich's matchday scores over the last sort of 6 months or so. And then we have the matchday score table, and this is really interesting because this gives you a even more detailed breakdown of the players' matchday scores. So you have like minutes played, total shots, shots on target, passes, key passes, crosses, dribble attempts, and so on. And that can be really useful to see how a player is actually hitting such high matchday scores. And you can also sort this in various ways. So we'll sort by matchday dividends earned. I know that Kimmich earned 28p twice last season. And that's because he was able to hit these really high scores of 367 and 279. And then you could also maybe sort by games when he's completed a lot of passes. That might give you a bit more information. So we'll just sort it by passes and go along again. So yeah, completed I think 100 passes in that game against Fortuna Dusseldorf. We'll reset this, in fact. And the other thing that you can do with the matchday score table is if you only want certain information, if you just click in this top left corner here, then you'll be able to remove certain information. You might not want to know about Kimmich getting red cards, yellow cards, fouls committed, offsides, clearances, blocks, and so on. So you can just remove whatever data you're not really interested in, just to clean this matchday scoring table up a little bit for yourself. And you can also expand this as well to get all of the information and maybe a bigger view really of it. And then the next thing that we've got, so we'll just minimize this again, is we have the media dividends, and Kimmich, he's not really the best player for media, so we'll have a look at another player. We'll go for Bruno Fernandes this time, just kind of going through some of the most liked players on Football Index, some of the highest priced players really. And yeah, Bruno Fernandes' media returns in January, of course, were absolutely huge due to that transfer. And then it's been pretty decent since. I think with his form picking up in the last few months, his media returns have been improving again. And I guess Sancho is a really great example of having a look at the media scores and how this can be useful, because you can see that it kind of went up from January. And at this point, when it was going up and it was sort of increasing his media scores, you could have made a decent estimation that by like August or in summer, his media returns were going to really improve again, because he's gaining like links to Man United all of the time. Then you have the dividend section. You can see he's earned £2.96 in media dividends, 55p in match day. And this is a nice breakdown as well with the dividends by month, because you have the different categories. So best player here, you have the media. You can see most of his returns have come from the media. Then also over the last 2 months anyway, the last 2 months that he's earned dividends, January and October, his dividend returns have been coming from match day more than anything else. And he hasn't actually earned that much in media at all. In fact, he's not earned any media dividends since October by looking at this, which is something that really stands out to me personally. So yeah, it's quite interesting. And then we have the match day and media dividend wins, and that's just a further breakdown showing you all of the information on how he's actually earned dividends, which is really useful. You've got the media scores there, the match day scores there as well. And then finally, we have the upcoming fixtures, predicted scores. And this is pretty cool because what you can do is have a look at what scores your player is predicted to hit against different opposition. And this is based on fixture difficulty, alongside whether your team's home or away, and then the player's past scores. So against someone like Armenia, who've just been promoted, Sancho is predicted to hit a really high score. And it's a similar case against someone like Schalke, who are currently bottom of the Bundesliga. The other thing that I should just quickly show yourselves is that you can basically filter by starting lineup or how many minutes played. So I think this probably applies more to someone who's maybe not starting that many games. Hudson-Odoi is a pretty decent example of this. If we scroll down, you can see his match day average score is 60.46. But if we change that to when he's actually starting in the lineup, then it's going to go up to 105. And then if we changed it to when he's actually playing, like 85 minutes or more, this figure is going to increase even further. So yeah, it's increased up to 111. And that can be really useful if you do want to find maybe some younger players who aren't starting regularly. If you then filter this by minutes played or starting lineup, you'll be able to see their average scores when they are actually getting some game time. And that can give you a good indication of how they could perform in the future. And Callum Hudson-Odoi is now playing under Thomas Tuchel, and that's partly why he's been able to earn some dividends recently. So to conclude, there are various ways that you can use the player profiles dashboard on Index Edge to find the data that you really want on a player. And to reset all of these filters, just press reset here, and you can just have an explore and find what works for you really, because there is so much data to get into and you have so many options to choose from in terms of how you actually lay out the data and how it is presented to you. So thanks for watching today's video on the player profile section, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.